All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that film. You guys know I'm a huge supporter of Blazar, and also thank you to Blazar for also supporting my own creativity. All that was shot on the new Blazar Catos, the 2X Anamorphics, full frame, super compact, lightweight, super affordable, sharp in the center, just like barrel distortion, anamorphic charm, and character, just jam-packed with everything we've always wanted. So this is going to be my official review and overview of the Blazar Catos. Before we get into it, we're shooting on the S5 2X with the 125 millimeter wide open at T4 on the S5 2X. Majority of the film though was shot on the Lumix S9 with the DJI Pro LiDAR autofocus setup system thing. Let's get into it. Right now, we're filming on the 55 millimeter Cato on the Lumix S9 with the DJI autofocus LiDAR setup. I can see it's tracking me right now. Also, right next to that, Evan's shooting on the S5 2X with the Lumix 50 millimeter. The 50 millimeter is at f2.8. The Cato 55 millimeter is at t2.8. I'm switching back and forth so you guys can see what the difference is between, anamorphic and your standard, perfectly clean spherical lens. We're shooting on a 2X anamorphic. So you'll see the vertical is very similar, especially when we keep the open gate on both of the cameras. But the big difference is when you go into a 16:9 final deliverable, see how much the 50 millimeter crops in. And then you'll see with the Cato, when we do an anamorphic crop, we're getting that full 25 millimeter width. So that's the difference for that. Anyways, now let's talk about size and weight. Guys, this is the case. First off, I had asked Blazar like months, like maybe 6 to 8 months ago or something like that. I was like, could you guys do an OD green case? Well, look at this. We got OD green cases now. So hopefully you guys like that. If you end up not liking them, I guess you can blame me. You can see right here, this is the Lumix S9 with the DJI LiDAR setup. And then we got the Blazar Cato 55 millimeter on here. Look how small this package is here though. Majority of that film that we shot was shot on this exact setup between Evan and I, mostly Evan operating. Evan's the goat over here. Again, just a few years ago, guys, having a full frame T2 55 millimeter full frame 2X anamorphic was not a thing. We now have that. Hopefully you guys understand how rare this is. So this is the Cato 55 millimeter right here. This is the 85 millimeter. The Cato 55 millimeter fastest T-stop is T2. On the 85, we have a T2.8. And then on the 125 millimeter, our fastest T-stop is T4. Even the 125 millimeter, you see how compact this is. So now when it comes to the distortion throughout the set, they all have barrel distortion. There are some more affordable other anamorphics out there, and they chose pin cushion. That's okay if you like pin cushion more. Personally, in my opinion, pin cushion feels flat. It feels like it's taking you away from the image. Barrel distortion kind of makes it feel more 3D. It makes whatever is in focus feel like it's popping off the screen. I absolutely love barrel distortion. When it gets to the far edges on all these lenses, we do have like an increase of distortion. It doesn't really bother me. There are times if I have a subject, an important subject on the far edge, or say the backdrop is like just, you can really see the distortion. I have a post-production fix. If you go watch my 33 millimeter review, I show how I do that fix. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description so you guys can watch that. Note that I'll make when it comes to, again, the other affordable brands out there when it comes to anamorphic. I know some people are like, oh, this one like has no distortion, blah, 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 blah. If you do any of those lenses side by side, you're gonna see there's something special about these lenses because again, Blazar understands it. They're fans. Some of them used to be content creators. I don't know if I'm allowed to be saying that, but they get it. They're filmmakers. They're not just like engineers behind the scenes, like just trying to like make up lenses and stuff. They're actual filmmakers. They're actual fans of the same films that we're fans of. You call it defects, you call it whatever you want. I'm an artist. I want to tell stories. I'm calling it character. That's what it is for me. This is a different type of paintbrush. This is a different kind of medium for me to slap that paint on the canvas. That's what these are for me. All right, guys, while we're at this, Evan's actually filming on the camera that we pretty much filmed that whole intro film on. Evan filmed a good like 70-80% of that. So you guys can see Evan's rocking the S9 here. We have I think that's the small rig cage on there and the whole DJI LiDAR setup on there. This is special. We're getting 2X anamorphic and this super compact run and gun autofocus setup. This was not possible literally just a year ago. All right, guys, so for our distortion test here, we're just going to use Evan. You can see we're on the 85 right now. When I get over to the edge here, you can see he almost like starts to get more skinny. So again, Blazar's doing this cool thing where they're kind of cheating the stretch on the side to increase and get more of a look out of it. But you'll notice when I go back into our standard 2.4 final deliverable, like every anamorphic film is, you can see a lot of that distortion gets cut out. Now I'm going to switch over to 16:9 on this S9 to show you guys how much of a crop that you're going to get if you don't have 3x2 full frame open gate. Okay, guys, so now we're in the 16:9 mode. You can see how much screen real estate we lost. So I'm going to crop all the way over here. And you're going to see, again, anybody that has FX3, like any camera that doesn't have full frame open gate, this is going to be your crop. And you're going to see all the crop you have to take out. You're going to miss a lot of those edges. Once you do that final deliverable crop, you're basically shooting Super 35 format, like film format. So now I'm on the 55 here. Again, this is why the Lumix S9, S5IIX, all of them are so dope. So you can see this is our full crop here. This is too wide. Any anamorphic film you've seen in the movies isn't this wide. In reality, we're going to go turn on our 240 crop marks. This is how wide it actually is. You can see the sides. It's perfectly cropping out that vignetting. Again, Blazar put a lot of thought into this. This wasn't by, coincidence. The 55 will clear 3x2 open gate at a 240 final standard crop. Let's see what our distortion looks like. You can see when I get off to the edge here, this is right around our deliverable crop. You can see there is some distortion there, but once I apply my post-production fix, it pretty much fixes it. And then if we go outside of that line, you see that vignetting comes. But again, it's not important because it's outside of our actual crop marks. So it's not a big deal. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, that doesn't cover blah, 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 blah. It does cover it. It covers 3x2 full frame open gate at a 240 deliverable, which is like the standard for anamorphic. Again, it's pretty predictable. So if you use my post-production fix, I use that fix maybe 20% of the time because really I don't need it all that much, only when it's actually noticeable, which is way less than you would think. Obviously, if you're doing like a pan like this, you're gonna notice it. But outside of that, if you're just like locked off, like Evan's in the 3/4 mark right there, you can't notice it. But if I go a little bit further, you notice it. When it comes to anamorphic flares, it's a very divisive topic. And I think the issue is there was only one damn film that was made that, they utilized flares to be a part of the film. Go back and watch all the iconic anamorphic films. There's heavily saturated blue flares in those films. Again, people online started to make a big thing about how anamorphic flares are ugly and blah, blah, blah because of one film. You guys need to really learn how to be confident in your own opinion. Stop just listening to people and repeating what they're saying. Anyways, all right, guys, it's time to do our flare test here. Currently, Evan's at minimum focus. He's going to focus in on me right now. I'm using a tungsten flashlight, not a gross LED flashlight. So you should see some color tone to this. Right now, I am transmitting to the new DJI SDR transmitters. I have a beta firmware right now. I have no idea when it's going to come out, but we now have anamorphic support on this. When they first showed me this, I was like, guys, we need anamorphic support. Please, it has to be done. I've actually been using these more than my pro transmitters. Those are great for pro jobs anyways. That's a different video. You can see these are some of the best flares Blazar has done so far. They're not, those super stark, edgy type flares. We're currently on the 125 millimeters wide open. And yeah, after this, we will switch over to the 85 millimeter. You can see similar to that B set Remus, we do have a little bit of those rainbow type flares over there. Guys, what is that? Let's rewind real quick. You guys see this right here? This is the new Deadpool movie, right? Millions and millions and millions of dollars using some of the best technology and lenses and cameras. Look at that. A matte box will be your best friend with this setup. If you're going to be in any situations where you think your lens might get flared out. Here it is from the edge up here. You can see that's those rainbow flares. I think for majority of things I shoot, I think those rainbow flares actually fit pretty well. So I'm not worried about them personally. Evan, what do you think? All right, guys, now we're on the 85 millimeter. Evan will start racking there. So you can see our flares are pretty consistent. This is very important when it comes to anamorphics, because if your flares look totally different across the board, you know, you're gonna get different tastes on there. This is the 125 millimeter in my hand right here. You can see this is insanely compact for what we're getting here. 2X, sharp in the center, full frame, anamorphics, super light as well. And these are our flares. Let's try our edge flares here. I'm not seeing too much of that rainbow. Huh. It's interesting. No rainbow flares. Let's try our edges here. So again, these are the silver flare sets. I don't know if they're making other colors. If they're making blue, I'm going to switch these out for the blue ones, because personally, I love classic blue flares. Just to show off the silver, this is now the phone. I don't like when lens flares tests are done with the phones, because this is a tiny pinpoint source of light. All right, guys, we are now on my favorite, the 55 millimeter at minimum focus. Ooh, look at that. Hang on. Don't focus yet. Look at those. Ooh. You guys, I love this shit. So Evan's going to focus on me right there. These are the flares on the 55. These, wow. Also, look how wide this is. I don't know if you guys can see it on the back of here. This baby is wide. Again, we're getting a 55 millimeter vertical, and then we're getting a 25 horizontal. This is beautiful. Let's see how those edges are. The real ones we know what I'm talking about when it comes to edges. Coming down. I feel like this lens might be a little bit dirty from us. So that might be affecting it a little bit. Can you pan to this slide over here? It's gonna be your other knob down there. There you go. So you can see this on lighting myself. This is that Zhiyun C100 light. We're just bouncing off the concrete right here. Brady Bissett would be really proud of me. Probably wouldn't be. But go and pan back to me. Let's see how that flare. So you can see the flare that's over here in camera, that's coming from that. So I wouldn't say this is easy to flare, but I will say it's not hard to flare. So obviously, if you have hard light sources that aren't being controlled, you might get instances like that. I mean, Evan and I have been filming with these for the past week. Evan, have you noticed them flaring out really bad at all?
No.
Yeah, Evan said no. I don't know if you can hear him. Wow. Wow. That's all I gotta say. We're gonna do a sharpness test. I'm gonna run you through all three lenses. There is a 45 millimeter. I don't have my hands on it yet, sorry. We're gonna go all the way from the max apertures all the way closing down to around T8. You'll notice the 55 millimeters max T-stop is T2. On the 85, our max T-stop is T28. And on the 125, it's T4. As you go up in the focal lengths, when you're wide open on whichever lens it is, you'll see the sharpness performance starts to drop. Now, the thing is, when you're on like a 125 millimeter full frame 2X anamorphic lens, even at T8, there's still so much bokeh and natural separation from your subject to your backdrop, because again, we're doing a 2X de-stretch on that background. So if you shot on a regular spherical lens at T8, you guys already know there's a lot of bokeh there already. Now add 2X de-stretch. There's a lot of physics around that, and I have no idea how to explain it. But in simple terms, let's just say you're increasing or you're distorting that bokeh by 2 times. So again, anybody that complains about, the 125 having some softness at T4, again, this is standard for majority of anamorphics. There's only a few sets of anamorphics out there that exist that are actually clean and fast. And a lot of them aren't even full frame anamorphics. You guys really, again, when it comes to anamorphics, you guys really have to do your research and really, go see what else is out there. Because I think, again, a lot of people get confused when they step into anamorphics, and it's a totally different world. They're paintbrushes, guys. They are for artists. They're for creatives. They're for filmmakers. They're not for like the analytical gearheads that are searching perfection. That's not what anamorphics are for. I'm sorry. Again, you could put these up to any other anamorphics, from $10,000 down to $1,000, whatever is available out there. Again, there's not really any affordable full frame 2X anamorphics. They don't exist. So since they don't exist, I guess go compare it to even Super 35 ones, and you'll notice, again, the sharpness that we're getting out of this with character, these are the only ones that are really doing it at this price point. It's like mind blowing, guys. Pretty much the biggest downside is also why these lenses are so amazing. That's being 2x anamorphics. Depending on what your rig is, 2x can be very difficult. I'm shooting on the Lumix S9. Just today, on the same day of the release of this, there's a firmware update for this camera that allows you to do unlimited recording. Brady and Johnny have also been using the 2x anamorphics. They've both been using the Sony FX3, which is a 16:9 sensor. And to me, I'm like, I don't want to deal with that headache. But Johnny's been doing a lot of off-road rigging. Brady's starting to do a lot of off-road rigging, but we all know Brady, you know, is always on sets and does a lot of DP stuff too. So what are your guys' thoughts? One, on the Catos, and two, any recommendations for them?
I guess for me, you're going to lose a lot on the edges because of that 16:9 sensor. So that's something that I didn't realize at first.
Wait, pause. Why they do this? I'm going to tune my LiDAR. So you guys, you can talk to the camera.
That was just a surprise, but obviously, you know, once I realized that, it's kind of is what it is. But the nice thing about the FX3 is obviously it has 2x D-squeeze, so you don't have to run an external monitor. So that was super nice as well. And then the biggest thing, the kind of benefit, like, and I'll accept the fact that I'm losing, you know, edges, is the Catos are so damn sharp, even wide open. Like that 55 is just crispy wide open.
The Remus I love, and then I put these on, and yes, I'm losing a lot on the edges. That's what Cam taught me, is really the benefit of open gate when it comes to 2x, because you're stretching so much more of the sensor that you're not getting on this. So that's one of the downfalls that I see his footage, and I'm like, damn, I need an open gate. Like every time I shoot on these, I'm like, it looks great, but I want a little bit of that like higher end of that sensor. But like you said, they're sharp at 2. Like Anamorphics should not be sharp at T2. Like that's very fast for, you know, for a 2x anamorphic. So running them down T2, 2.8, 4, they're just like, they just get better and better, honestly. And even if we're running on like the 16:9 sensor, you still get the character throughout the entire image in the bokeh. You get a little bit more of that stretch in the bokeh that looks really nice. And for me, I mean, I love the silver flare. My Remus or amber flare, I love the silver flare, just how it takes to a lot of like hot sources and sunlight. It just feels crisper and more like, almost like in a weird way, more burnt in like film would be. How it gets desaturated on the high end. I like that look. It's not a bad setup. It's kind of hard. Like the other day when you're like, I can't see shit on the Sony screen. It's like, I don't know if it's even sharp, but that's one of the issues. But dude, I love them.
This is the only camera amongst the S5 2X and all the other Lumix stuff that has proper full anamorphic support, including some of the Blackmagic cameras as well. But I'm going to program the Blazar Cato set into my DJI LiDAR setup here. So moving forward for the rest of the shoot, we'll be able to use all autofocus. So it's okay because again, we're just running, you know, these Catos on a D-stretch image on the back of the screen here. So you see, this is the issue with 2X is we're shooting a 3x2 open gate. There's pretty much no other mirrorless camera that does that right now. 2X anamorphic D-stretch, even on a 3x2 open gate, you're getting a little bit excess space on the edges there.
So I'll just grab a Cato real quick. So one tip that I have when I'm rigging it to the car, you can kind of see my suction stain so you get an idea of where I put it. But the nice thing is I will use multiple arms. So I'll put some suction arms on the camera, and then I'll use another one on the base of the Cato, because these, you know, anamorphics, they're solid construction, but they're heavy. But this adds like an extra point of stability, because that's where most of the wobble is going to happen, is on this top heavy end.
You guys all know who Brady is. He does, again, a lot of on-set stuff. He does a lot of cinematography type stuff, not just the run and gun stuff. We just went over Johnny's setup, and, you know, that's a good high action run and gun, like solo operator type stuff. The Catos are amazing for that. Now, when it comes to team stuff and on sets and a mix of, you know, Brady kind of does it all, the people who do that kind of stuff might have questions about.
With my work, I do a lot of narrative stuff. So with that, I'm choosing a lens for the job. And a lot of the times choosing something like anamorphic or something with the character of the Catos gives you that feeling of the story that you're trying to tell. So opting for something like a 2X with a lot of character like the Catos would be a great decision for something like where you really want to emulate the character of the story that you're trying to tell.
For everybody who maybe is mixed up, like, oh, do I need these? Like, where, how, when would I use these? Any recommendations to those people on like when and where you might use them?
I mean, very often. I've been using them like crazy, honestly, especially with the price point of where Blazar lenses are at, especially the Catos. It's a great kind of owner-operator set, because I've got this in my closet and I'm ready to pull it for any job. I don't have to go into a rental house to get like maybe a lot more expensive lens or whatever. I can just pull this off the shelf, say you text me and say, let's go shoot something tomorrow.
Mhm.
I don't have to go to Reynolds, and I can just pull it off and we're ready to go. And that's what I've been loving about having these Blazars, on top of the fact that they look amazing.
I have some really expensive Anamorphics, and I'm too scared to use them on a lot of the stuff I do because I'm like, I don't know what exactly we're filming.
Yeah.
But I know we're going to be getting nitty gritty and dirt. Possibly it might rain on us now.
Yeah.
Like, I am confident and I'm going to have fun with the Catos in those conditions and not worry about it too much. Because, you know, if I have to replace it, it's not an $8,000 lens I have to replace or $80,000 lens. Really have to drill in the point how unique these Anamorphics are. Let me explain a little bit, because once again, there's some miseducation going on when it comes to Anamorphics. I will say off the bat, if you're someone who doesn't, you know, love or care distortion and character on the edges, Anamorphic might not be for you. And once again, that's totally okay. Maybe stick to spherical. You know, Roger Deakins would probably agree with that. That's why he doesn't shoot on Anamorphics. He likes a cleaner slate, basically. But when it comes to the distortion on here, yes, there's a good amount of it. If you go and look at any of the vintage or like classic Anamorphics that we're used to, usually those, you know, are gonna have a lot of distortion on the edges. The affordable Anamorphics that we've had before Blazar started to put out Anamorphics were more, you know, compromise Anamorphics, where they're going more for like sharpness and compact size and flatness. And that's not really what Anamorphic is about. Back in the day, Anamorphic, when you're shooting on film, they were trying to expand the image and they were trying to get sharper optics because they're shooting on film. Now that we're shooting on perfect digital sensors and everything's so sharp and clean and clinical, you know, Anamorphic is a paintbrush for creating more character and charm. So if you're someone that's looking for, you know, real life flatness and crazy sharpness from edge to edge and minimum distortion, I gotta be honest, Anamorphic just might not be what you're looking for. But if you're someone that wants to kind of spice up your images, or maybe if you're someone like me where all the stories you want to tell revolve a little bit more grit and revolves around trying to pull your audience and your viewer out of real life and into your world that you're trying to create within that little frame, Anamorphic does that. It takes you out of real life and it pushes you into the life of your film, your content, whatever you want to call it. That's what Anamorphic is for me. So also, we're still in the 125 millimeter. Let's go to minimum focus here. Also, guys, we're still wide open at T4 on the 125 millimeter. I have no idea if I'm in focus or not, but I love this lens.